Hi, I'm Ksenia Trukova. As the announced Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska draws closer, I'm thinking not only about Ukraine, although that question remains at the heart of everything, but also about what their relationship might mean for anti-war Russians seeking political asylum in the United States. Imagine you live in Russia, you oppose the war, you oppose Putin's regime, and you take part in protests. One administrative case after another is opened against you. You are detained, then by luck released, until one day your name appears on the official list of so called terrorists and extremists. You have no choice but to flee. You cross borders hoping to be safe. You apply for political asylum, let's say in the United States, but your request is denied. You spend months in detention and are finally deported back to Russia, where you are arrested the moment you land. You might think that it sounds like the plot of a dark, absurd film. Yet, this is the real story of Russian activist Leonid Melekhin, now back in Russia and facing vague terrorism charges. And his story is not unique. I will tell you more stories. A young former soldier who refused to fight in Ukraine, deserted, fled to the US, applied for asylum, and lost his case. Now he is awaiting deportation. One more story. A 20-year-old who joined an anti war protest was detained, fined, expelled from college, fled first to Georgia, then to the US, only to be detained again without a lawyer. Twice, US authorities tried to deport him. Twice he resisted. After the second attempt, he was placed in solitary confinement. And one more story. Polina Guseva, an activist, an opposition activist from Russia who worked on Navalny's campaign, left Russia after the full scale invasion of Ukraine. She applied for asylum at the US border and won her case, yet remains behind bars while prosecutors appeal the decision. And these are just those three stories. As US immigration policy tightens, the situation for those fleeing Putin's regime grows increasingly grim. Dmitry Valuev, president of Russian America for Democracy in Russia, told me that it's very likely that Russians denied asylum here will face prosecution if they return.
Many of them face immediate repressions upon the return in Russia. And with one particular asylum seeker, he was tried to be deported, and the Russian authorities called his name when other asylum seekers arrived to Moscow. They were looking for him. They know that he is in detention, and he was supposed to be deported. And we just recently received information about his criminal persecution from his relatives. So it's unfortunately the situation is extremely dangerous. It's extremely harsh, and people who face deportation, they not only face just deportation, they face severe repercussions and repressions in Russia. Unfortunately, most of those people do not have enough support. They don't have support groups. They don't have volunteers, and the only way for them to get any help, get any support, is to find organizations, and in our cases, a grassroots volunteer initiative like us, and ask for help.
So we do have families, we do have single individuals, we do have children like who are under 21, and they are also separated from their parents. And so yeah, for now in our system we do have over 60, I guess even 65 applicants, individuals.
And we can tell that as of now, I think the overall number of Russian asylum seekers in detention is probably within 1,000 people. But it's very rough, so it might be lower or higher.
Dmitri's organization helps people fight deportation, offering legal aid, translation, communication, and basic support. Without it, the chances of losing your case and being deported are very high. And waiting in detention is its own ordeal, harsh conditions, isolation, and uncertainty.
This idea, this kind of concept of detention centers being built and designed to hold people for a short time gives you an understanding of how they operate. So the fact that many asylum seekers are held in detentions for a long time, it means that their internal processes, infrastructure is not really designed to maintain, to support people in detention for a long time. For example, medical rooms. Each detention center has a medical cabinet or medical room. But most of that they can do in detention is to give a person um, anti-pain medication or antidepressant, just to keep them in good, in more or less good health for a week or two. But if people are held in detention for months and have chronic diseases, have some people have cancer, some people have diabetes, some people have arthritis and back pain, and so on and so forth. So there are many different diseases that cause real pain and real suffer. Turns out that medical rooms and local doctors cannot diagnose and they cannot treat chronic diseases on a regular basis. They don't have that capacity. They don't have that equipment. They don't have that type of medication to ease the suffering. And people in detention, unfortunately, if they're held more than a month, it becomes real painful suffering, everyday suffering.
I also spoke with Dmitry and Milena about the logistics of deportations, possible escapes in third countries, and why US judges often don't grasp the reality in Russia, and about what can be done to help.
People are deported through third countries. We know deportations through Morocco, through China, and recently through Egypt. Typically, um, detainees, asylum seekers in deportation are put on a plane here in the United States together with the ICE officers accompanying them. Asylum seekers do not have their documents in hand, so typically their passports or any identification is held by ICE officers. We tried to help a couple, husband and wife, who did not realize that they are in Morocco and they're put on a direct flight to Moscow, and they just realized that when they landed in Moscow, and they couldn't avoid being deported to Russia.
They usually do not realize that they are already in Moscow. And in Moscow, usually it's about Sheremetyevo airport, one of the biggest airports in Russia. So, and in the airport, they, of course, Russian security, federal security, they actually do understand who is in the plane, and they will just take these people to separate office, and they started to talk to them, and probably they started to persecute them.
Why do the US judges deny the political asylum in the last month? I mean, in the last, is it the part of general tightening the immigration policy in the US, or they just don't understand the situation in Russia? They don't understand the level of repression.
This is a question that we would like to know, like the answer we would like to know, because in many cases it's like always case by case, and attorney and judge could answer this question more clearly than we. I have just read one news It was in Texas. It's not about our applicant. It's just like other case. When a immigration judge in Texas said, yes, you are persecuted in Russia, but you will be in the jail and you will not die. So, and he was like, they deport him to Russia. And this guy, it also was a man. So he just, when he was deported to Russia, I don't know how, but he just left Russia on the following day after his deportation, and he left and he went to South Africa.
And we see that people who typically do not have any support, who even with very solid and strong cases, but if they don't have enough support, they don't have an opportunity to prepare their cases properly, they tend to fail more often comparing to people who do have some help.
What can be done right now to help Russian citizens in the American detention centers?
Mm, I think everything that we do, we certainly can tell that it helps. First, it's helping with communication. When people are in isolation, they cannot quickly connect with their relatives. They have a very hard time connecting with a family member in another detention center. So communication is a key, very important piece of success. Second is actually that's Milena's responsibility is translations. Milena in our team is a team lead for interpreters, for translators. And third is legal support, legal help. As we said before, even in 1 hour consultation with an immigration attorney provides tremendous amount of information and helps asylum seekers to prep for an upcoming hearing is critically important because again, people in isolation feel hopeless, they feel abandoned, they feel lonely, and knowing that they're not alone tremendously adds to their success.
Since the beginning of this year alone, there have been at least two known deportations: Vladimir Mashikhin and Leonid Melekhin, whose story I told you. Mashikhin managed to escape. Melekhin is now in a Russian pre-trial detention center. Thousands of Russians in the US without legal status face the same threat. In response, the Paris based news outlet Most Media has launched a petition urging US authorities not to deport Russians persecuted for their anti war views.